Alright, let's start with gems. First of all, we have Divergent Cobra Lash, because the Divergent version gives us projectiles deal 15% increased damage with hits and ailments for each remaining chain. And the way that Cobra Lash works is that we chain quite a lot. I'm not sure if we have like 8 or 9 chains or something like that, but we get more damage from this because we chain so much, so that's why you want the Divergent one, not the normal one. Then I have GMP that I swap out for Awakened Cold Penetration support on single target like bosses and such. Then we have Nightblade, Awaken added cold damage, Inspiration, and Awaken elemental damage with attacks. Then I have Summon Ice Golem with Life Tap. I have Ancestral Protector and then Precision at level 17. I have Enhanced Support level 3 with Mark on Hit support, Life Tap, and Sniper's Mark. I have Whirling Blades, Faster Attacks, and Steel Skin. I have Blood Rage, Enhance, and Berserk. And then for auras in the helmet, we have Enlighten, Herald of Ice, Grace, and Hatred. And the reason why we have all these gems the way that we have them is because we have a very low mana pool, so we use Life Tap for certain skills. And we also have minus channeling to mana on our rings and such, so our Cobra Lash costs as little as possible because we have such a low mana pool. And then I have Steel Skin on left click, Blood Rage for more attack speed, and then I use Berserk when I have Rage. So then, let's quickly go over the gear, shall we? This is a Dex cold stacking Cobra Lash build. So the main thing that you need to make this build work is a claw with adds cold damage to attacks with this weapon per 10 dexterity. And you mainly want to have 2 to 4 cold damage because that's the highest roll that you can have. Now, when we add as much dexterity as we can on this build, we gain a bunch of cold damage. And that's why that is the main thing that you want. Then you add other pieces around that to get elemental ailment immunity. You get your stats up as much as you can. Like I said, as much dexterity as you can. And some other things as well that we're going to go through. So for the claw, I have attack speed, cold damage, crit chance, attacks with this weapon penetrate elemental resistances, and then of course the cold damage attacks with this weapon per 10 dexterity. For gloves, I have chosen a pair of life and resist gloves that also have increased damage with hits against chilled enemies. Now, I was also lucky enough to manage to get this with attack speed and cold damage attack, so these are really good gloves. And then for the implicits, I have gone with increased effect of your marks because we get a lot of our damage from Sniper's Mark on this build. And then I also have gained 1 rage on hit with attacks no more than once every 1.1 seconds. Now, rage can be really good for damage as it gives us more attack speed, and we can then later on pop Berserk as like a offensive cooldown that makes us deal a bunch of damage. So these are really, really good gloves for this build. For the boots, I have the enchant damage penetrates 10% of enemy elemental resistances if you haven't killed recently. This gives us a big damage buff against single targets. And then I have elusive effect because we utilize elusive a lot in this build. And then I have action speed because that's movement speed and attack speed and such things. And then I have dexterity because we want as much dexterity as possible. Then life, resist, and 35% movement speed. For the belt, I was once again very lucky in order to get this belt. I got it at a very cheap price. It has life, it has resists, it has increased elemental damage with attack skills, which is really good for us. But then it also has increased damage with hits against chilled enemies. And it is also Stygian Vice, so I can have a Murderous Eye Jewel here with more dexterity, more maximum life, and even some added cold damage with claw attacks. For rings, I have resists, I have life, I have dexterity, and I have strength because we need strength for some of our gems, so it's really nice to get strength somewhere like here. And we also want to have more strength than we have intelligence due to our helmet that we'll go through later. And then I also have non-channeling skills have -7 total mana cost, so I can afford spamming Cobra Lash even though my mana pool is so small. And the same thing kind of goes for the other ring here. Life, resist, and stats. Pretty simple stuff. Ashamentis jewel because it is really good because it gives us stats, you know, a lot of dexterity and intelligence and strength and all that stuff, and it balances it out so we can use all the gems without too much hassle. It's a cheaper option. You can get a much better jewel for this. It's going to be a little bit annoying getting your stats fixed and everything, but you can do it. But this is the cheapest and easiest way to do this, and for the Anoint I have maximum frenzy charges. Now for the helmet, we're using the Fractal Thoughts Vol Mask, and that's why we want our strength to be higher than our intelligence and the dexterity to be the highest overall. We then gain critical multiplier, and we also gain dexterity as well. And we then later also get elemental damage with our dexterity and even more life with our intelligence. And for the enchant, I have Cobra Lash changed 3 additional times. This is a synergy with Divergent Cobra Lash, so you get more damage from this gem here because we change this more overall. And then for the shield, I have attack speed, life, 32% chance to avoid elemental ailments, so I become ailment immune, and we also have dexterity on this bad boy as well. Flasks, Ball of Faith, a silver flask onslaught, and then a diamond flask as well with some attack speed. Movement speed on my Quicksilver, I have attack speed here, I have evasion here, and then I have, you know, Ball of Faith, and then I have a divine life flask with blood immunity and corrupted blood immunity, and some instant recharge as well if needed. Now for my jewels in my skill tree, I have a Watcher's Eye with damage penetrates, cold resistance while you're affected by hatred, and also gain some more spell damage suppression while affected by grace, which I am, so I can gain as much spell suppression and as close to 100% as possible. I then have some Closet Jewels with follow through and repeater, which I also have over here. Follow through and repeater, follow through and repeater. Now jewels, I have Inspired Learning because I like farming maps with Inspired Learning. I have a normal jewel with some attack speed, crit chance, crit multiplier, and even accuracy, which I don't really need, but you know, it's nice to have in case you're not at 100%, you want to get 100% accuracy rating on this build. And then a really important thing to have on this build is a Brutal Restraint Timeless Jewel. This gives more dexterity per every node that is inside of this ring here. You can see +4, +2, +2, and then +4, and it can also give some nice things on the larger nodes like this: global accuracy rating, cold res, increased evasion rating, more cold res, stuff like that can be really helpful if you're lucky enough to get it on a good brutal restraint. And then another really important thing is that I have Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame jewels with focal point from another ascendancy, because focal point is so incredibly good for this build. Since we utilize Sniper's Mark so much, this gives us an immense amount of damage because this increases the effect of our marks, and also makes us tankier because we take less damage from enemies near our marked enemy. Now the last thing to talk about right now is just the skill tree in general. So a lot of people who play this build usually play a Deadeye because they can get more projectiles and they can get focal point and they can get the more chain node as well. But I'm a fan of Raider. I like getting easy elemental ailment immunity, I like the spell suppression, and I like frenzy charging stacking as well that we somewhat do in this build. And looking over them both in path building, they look equally strong, but I just found that like Raider fits my playstyle more, and I could still get in focal point through Flame and Flesh and make the build like really strong in general through that. So yeah, I'm playing the Raider Ascendancy, chance to spread spell damage, and then Avatar the Veil for the chance to avoid elemental ailment while facing, and also getting the exposure to nearby enemies, gaining a lot of damage through that. And then we have the Poacher, Avatar the Slaughter for the frenzy stacking. So we have Fervor, and we have Savagery, and we have Frenetic, and you know, then we get like +1 here, and yeah, so we have quite a lot of frenzy charges and all that through the build. We get basically very normal things for a build like this. You know, we're going crits and we're playing projectiles, we're deck stacking, we have thick skin for the elemental ailment immunity as well. So this, and then the shield, we get elemental ailment immunity all together, and then Fangs of Frost and Mark for Death and Point Blank, because you know we're playing a character that uses the Sniper's Mark for a lot of damage, and Point Blank just gives us a lot of damage in general. We got some Closet Jewels here, you know, Fan of Blades and Wind Up through this one. This one generates us power charges sometimes, and Fan of Blades gives another projectile, which is nice for clearing. It can also be really good when we swap out to Awaken Cold Penetration, so you still have 2 projectiles, you can aim a little bit easier and all that stuff. And then we have Claws of the Hawk and Claws of the Magpie, you know, for just general damage with claws and all that stuff. And Charisma and Restoration Mastery, the one that gives us mana restoration, efficiency of skills and all that stuff. And Revenge of the Hunted. Grace has increased mana reservation as well. We're trying to get as much mana reservation as possible so we can fit in all our auras and still have some mana to use for our Cobra Lash as well. So it's nothing really super special in that area. Right now I have an Inspired Learning, so I had to remove Heart of Oak and get Survivalist to make this work, but normally I would have a normal jewel here for more single target damage. I would drop Survivalist and I would get Heart of Oak instead, and that would basically be it. Now, I talked about the mana reservation. The reason why we have to have Grace and the Reservation Mastery here as well is also because we're using Enlighten, Herald of Ice, Grace, and Hatred, but we're using Precision level 17. So a really big thing with that is that you can keep it at like maybe 16 or 15, but you want to make sure that you have enough main hand chance to hit. 100%. You want to have that. If you don't have 100%, you need to get your accuracy up somehow. You need to pump your precision level up, or you need to get some precision in your skill tree or on some gear, or you need an Enlighten level 4 so you can actually pump your precision up without screwing over your mana. But as long as you get that 100% hit on Cobra Lash, then it's all good. It doesn't really matter. And that's why also why I'm using, you know, the Ice Golem. I even put in the Anomalous Ice Golem because he gives increased buff effect, so we get even more accuracy and even more crit and stuff like that. But even without the Anomalous one, it would work fine for me to have 100% with everything that I have in the build right now. And I also have 1 Mana Leech node because, you know, I don't have mana on hit right now with the Imperial Claw, and I don't have any Mana Leech, so we need that Mana Leech because sometimes, you know, if you're just spamming like this, eventually your mana is gonna go down and you're just gonna get this wall where she's like, I can't hit anymore, and she's getting pissed off and all that shit, you know. Now, I've spent quite a bit of money on this, but you can min-max it even more. There are certainly gear that you can like improve quite a bit, like rings, maybe the amulets, a stronger weapon even, stronger boots and such things. And there are also like jewels that you can get a lot better, like this jewel right here isn't really the best. Drop the Inspired Learning here and get something else there instead, and maybe get some more levels and get some more skill points that would help you out. Get a better cluster jewel and so on and so on. I've even seen some people use Uber Cirrus jewel here to get the, you know, massive ring where you can even get things as like Force of Nature and Aspect of the Lynx and weapon artistry, and you can even get leadership and all these kinds of things like Harrier and Finesse. And I even think I saw, was it Willow Blades and stuff like that. Like, there are so many other things that you can get here, and you can definitely push this character a lot further if you want to. But I felt like getting to this stage where I'm right now was really more than enough. I've done so much content in the game. I've done Uber Cirrus, I've done every endgame boss in the game. And I've been farming like crazy because it is a really good map farmer. So I've really been enjoying this build. But you can take it, you know, a step further if you want to as well. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. I really appreciate you watching this video. Feel free to drop a like here and subscribe on YouTube, and go follow my Twitch as well over at twitch.tv/burgerbrush. And I hope you have a fantastic day.